What if the Golden State Warriors' final move of the Stephen Curry era involved both Anthony Davis and LeBron James? It sounds almost impossible to imagine, but a new NBA proposal is already generating serious discussion around the basketball world. With Curry still chasing one more championship before retirement, the Warriors could soon face a difficult decision. Do they stay patient and protect their future? Or do they make one last aggressive push to maximize the final years of one of the greatest players in NBA history? That question is becoming increasingly important as Golden State enters another critical offseason. For years, the Warriors have tried to balance two different timelines. They want to remain competitive enough to support Curry's championship ambitions, while also preparing for life after the dynasty eventually comes to an end. But the closer Curry gets to retirement, the harder that balancing act becomes. Every season matters now. Every roster decision matters now. And according to a recent proposal from Bleacher Report's Timothy Rapp, the Warriors may have an opportunity to pursue a dramatic solution involving two former Los Angeles Lakers superstars. Golden State already made one notable move this offseason by selecting Axel Lendeborg with the 11th overall pick in the 2026 NBA Draft. Many viewed the selection as a smart investment in the future, giving the franchise another young talent with significant upside. The problem is that future-focused moves don't necessarily solve present-day problems. Rookies rarely transform contenders overnight, and the Warriors still face the same question that has followed them throughout recent seasons. Is the current roster good enough to compete for a championship? Many around the league would argue that the answer is no. That's where Anthony Davis enters the conversation. Rapp proposed a scenario in which Golden State could potentially pursue a trade for Davis, who is currently with the Washington Wizards. The proposal immediately caught attention because Davis remains one of the most talented two-way players in basketball when healthy. According to Rapp, the trade idea may have made even more sense before the NBA draft. This one would have perhaps made more sense before the draft, when the Warriors could have flipped Jimmy Butler and the number 11 pick to the Washington Wizards for Davis, Rapp wrote. Now that the draft has already taken place, the circumstances have changed. Instead of receiving a valuable lottery pick, Washington would likely be looking for future draft compensation if discussions ever became serious. Rapp explained that Jimmy Butler's situation plays a major role in that reality. After suffering a torn ACL in January, Butler's uncertain recovery timeline affects his value in any potential trade package. Instead, the Wizards would be asking for future draft capital in the deal, Rapp noted. He also suggested that Butler would primarily serve as salary matching in a potential transaction, while future assets would likely be the most attractive component for Washington. From the Wizards' perspective, that approach makes sense. Even with Trae Young reportedly signing a massive contract extension to remain in Washington, the organization may still be focused on long-term development. Collecting additional draft assets could align with a strategy centered around young talent and future flexibility. Golden State, however, isn't operating on a long-term timeline. The Warriors are operating on the Stephen Curry timeline. That distinction changes everything. The front office isn't simply trying to build a playoff team. They're trying to maximize what could be the final championship window of a player who completely changed the sport. That's why a player like Davis becomes so intriguing. When healthy, Davis remains one of the most dominant defensive players in the NBA. His ability to protect the rim, control the glass, switch defensively, and impact games without scoring makes him one of the league's most valuable stars. Offensively, he brings an entirely different dimension than what Golden State currently possesses. For years, Curry has forced defenses to stretch far beyond the three-point line. Opponents constantly worry about his shooting, movement, and ability to create offense from virtually anywhere on the floor. Adding Davis would create a unique inside-outside combination. Defenses would be forced to respect Curry's shooting gravity while simultaneously dealing with Davis near the basket. Few teams would have the personnel to comfortably handle both challenges at the same time. That's why Rapp described the pairing as a logical 1-2 combination. On paper, the basketball fit is easy to understand. The bigger concern is health. Davis has spent much of his career battling injuries. While his talent has never been questioned, his availability has often become the central topic whenever teams evaluate his long-term value. That concern followed him throughout his Lakers tenure and remained part of the conversation after one of the most shocking trades in recent NBA history. During the 2024-25 season, the Lakers made the stunning decision to trade Davis to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Luka Doncic. The move completely changed the direction of both franchises and instantly became one of the biggest stories in basketball. Unfortunately for Davis, injury concerns didn't disappear after the trade. He continued appearing on injury reports during his time with Dallas before eventually being moved again, landing with the Wizards earlier this year. Any team considering a trade for Davis would need to carefully evaluate both his elite upside and the risks that come with his health history. Then comes the second layer of this proposal: LeBron James. The possibility of Davis joining Golden State is already fascinating. Adding LeBron to the discussion takes things to another level entirely. Rapp suggested that James could potentially become part of the equation through free agency. The Warriors, meanwhile, could pair Davis with Stephen Curry, a very logical 1-2 combination. Add in Draymond Green and perhaps LeBron James in free agency, and the Warriors would have quite the interesting collection of veteran stars. That sentence alone is enough to capture the attention of NBA fans everywhere. For more than a decade, Curry and LeBron represented opposing forces at the top of the basketball world. Their rivalry helped define an entire generation of NBA basketball. They met repeatedly on the biggest stages, battled in unforgettable finals series, and built legacies that will be discussed for decades. The thought of seeing them wear the same uniform still feels unusual, yet for the first time, it's at least a conversation worth discussing. James remains one of the biggest unanswered questions of the offseason. The four-time NBA champion is currently an unrestricted free agent and has yet to announce whether he plans to continue playing during the 2026-27 season. Retirement remains possible. Returning for another season remains possible. Exploring a completely new situation remains possible. No one knows exactly what comes next. What we do know is that James continues to perform at an impressive level despite entering the later stages of his historic career. Last season, he averaged 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 6.1 rebounds per game, while shooting 51.5% from the field and 31.7% from three-point range. Those numbers would be impressive for most players in the league. For someone who has already spent decades competing at the highest level, they are remarkable. James and Davis also bring something else to the table: chemistry. The duo spent 5.5 seasons together with the Lakers and helped deliver a championship in 2020. They understand how to play alongside one another, and their partnership produced significant success when healthy. Meanwhile, Curry and Draymond Green have already established one of the most successful partnerships in modern NBA history. Combine those relationships together, and the Warriors would instantly possess one of the most recognizable veteran cores the league has ever seen. Of course, there would be challenges. Age would be a concern. Health would be a concern. Depth would be a concern. Financial flexibility would be a concern. But championship pursuits are rarely risk-free. At some point, every contender must decide whether the potential reward justifies the gamble. Golden State may soon face exactly that decision. Nothing in this proposal guarantees that a trade will happen. Nothing guarantees LeBron would choose the Warriors. And nothing guarantees that any version of this roster would stay healthy enough to make a championship run. But that's exactly why the story is so compelling. It forces everyone to think about what matters most during the final years of the Curry era. Should the Warriors preserve future assets and focus on long-term flexibility? Or should they push every available chip to the center of the table for one final championship chase? As the offseason continues, that question may become more important than any specific rumor. Because one thing is absolutely clear, Stephen Curry is still searching for another title, and if Golden State believes Anthony Davis and LeBron James can help make that dream a reality, don't be surprised if some very bold conversations begin taking place. If you were running the Warriors, would you trade future draft picks for Anthony Davis and make a push for LeBron James, or would you keep Golden State's future intact and build around the next generation? Let us know in the comments because this debate is only getting started.